Bonjour, Kinamagi Nene Ireland and Dishnikas, and welcome to this production of the My Math Network. Today's edition, Chapter 8, Lesson 6, Comparing Fractions. This lesson will begin using the packet on page 583. If you do not have that packet available right at this second, please pause the video and grab it. If you do not have that packet for whatever reason, please have something to write with and something to write on available to you. Let's begin today's lesson by looking at yesterday's homework. And that was the least common multiple. And we know the least common multiple is going to be at least as large as the bigger of the numbers, bigger or biggest, depending on how many you have. So number one, 7 went into 14. So 14 is the least common multiple. 7 times 2 and 14 times 1. Here, 15, 30, 6 goes into 35 times, so it's 30. 5, 9, and 15, all of those go into 45, and there's nothing smaller that they will go into. That's 15 times 3, 9 times 5, and 5 times 9. Going over here, the cycles for two different events are shown in the table. Each of these events happened in the year 2000. What is the next year they'll both will happen? And it turned out to be 2020 because the least common multiple of 4 and 10 is 20. 20 plus 2000 is 2020. Uh-oh. 2020 got this one because there was no Olympics last year. Eek. Draw a conclusion. Is the statement below always, sometimes, or never true? Give at least 2 examples to support your reasoning. The least common multiple of 2 numbers is the product of the 2 numbers. Sometimes is your best answer. The least common multiple of 3 and 4 is 12, 3 times 4. But the least common multiple of 2 and 10 is 10, not 2 times 10 or 20. And that was discussed a little bit during the lesson yesterday. 6 multiples that are shared by 2 or more numbers are common multiples. And the least common multiple is the least multiple other than 0 common to a set of multiples. So the smallest number. And on this one, Mike is buying items for a birthday party. If he wants to have the same amount of each item, what is the least number of packages? And it turned out it would be 4 packages. 4 times 2, yeah. So there we go. So let's look at what today's homework will be so that we have an idea of what we're getting into. And we will be comparing fractions today. You'll notice multiple times in today's lesson that they make this look like a 1 when you have this a common numerator and denominator, like this 6 over 6 or this 5 over 5. That's because if I took a pizza, I cut it into 6 slices, and I ate all 6, so you're 6 over 6, I still ate an entire pizza. It's a whole. No matter what, if I call it 6, 6, 3/3, 1 or 2 halves, or 20/20ths, it's still a whole thing. So we end up trying to find equivalent fractions so that we have the same numbers here, 30 and 30. So that's where that least common multiple from yesterday is going to come into play. So using that least common multiple, we're going to find the equivalent fraction for 3/4 to compare to 7/8. There's a hint there. And then we're going to do the same on 2 and 3. Number 4, you see us in 5, 6 are story problems. 7 is a vocab. Hint, check page 583. And then we have a test practice question. So let's begin the actual lesson. And like I said, it's chapter 8, lesson 6, compare fractions. The essential question are, how are factors and multiples helpful in solving problems? Just a little hint for you. The multiples are really important today in order to be able to compare these fractions, especially since we're not carrying fraction tiles around. Well, you might not be. Got a whole bag of them in the car. Let's begin with our investigate. This part is not in your textbook. So just kind of follow along and listen. If there's any important notes, feel free to take them. So what are some ways to compare fractions? Well, I could make a model. I could use least common multiples to get equivalent fractions so that I have common denominators. That's just a couple. So what are we doing today? We're going to compare the fractions by using models, if necessary. Use the symbols less than, greater than, or equal to. This is no different than when we compared whole numbers, but now we're using decimal fractions. So first off, I need a 3/4. Okay. Now I need 8s. Let's pretend that my artwork isn't shoddy and these are all the same width. So let's color in. I'm going to use a different color just for it. 3/4. 1, 2, and 3. You want to make sure you stay within the lines. You know, do better than your teacher's art skills. So that's 3/4 right there. Now I need 5/8. 1, 2. You notice this is divided into 8 pieces. 3, 4, and 5. So now I have a model ready to go. So which one's larger? What's more colored in, the 3/4 or the 5/8? Right now, you would look at it and say, well, 3/4 is larger. 1, 2, 3. This part isn't colored in. It's not quite the same. So 3/4 is greater than 5/8. But Mr. Ireland, 5 is greater than 3. What are you doing? Well, I needed to get equivalent fractions. And that's kind of what we're doing today. If I did this so that this was all 8s, suddenly what would I have? Basic, niche, Nisway, Niwin, not a good Westway. Suddenly I have 6 out of 8 compared to 5/8. Now what's bigger? Well, Mr. Ice, 6 is greater than 5. Duh. And suddenly that duh moment of, wait a minute, 3 isn't greater than 5, but 6 is. I feel like I need the meme with the gentleman with the big fluffy red coat and the yellow background with the kind of confused look and then a smile. That's what I need right now. But I don't have that meme. I need a Q button with the memes here. But I can see now that 6 is greater than 5. And that was because we did equivalent fractions there. So we needed common denominators. One way we can do that is probably on the next screen, but we'll take a shot at it anyway. I look for my least common multiples of 4 and 8. So it's 4 times 1, 4 times 2. Wait a minute. It's right there. If I hit that first number, I know that the least common multiple of 4 and 8 is going to be that 8. This was already over 8, so I did nothing to it. What I could do now is I need to make this an 8. So I multiply, and I'm going to try their drawings like they do here at this in their program, times 2 over 2. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. 6/8 and 3/4 is the same amount. If I was serving pizza and each person get a fourth, if I put these into 2 smaller pieces, so that's 2 8s, 2 8s and 1/4 is the same. 3/4 and 6/8 are the same as well. I'm going to go ahead and clear the drawing. Let's see if the next slide is exactly what I expected. Well, you didn't see the student work, you saw mine. Oh, good. All right, so now we have to compare the 6/7 versus 5/6. Most times you're not going to draw a model. Are you allowed to draw a model? Yeah, you can. But by and large, you're going to want a quicker way, especially when you get into middle school and high school, drawing models takes time. So we're going to use the least common multiple as our way to do it. The first thing I need to do is find the multiples of 7. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 3 is 21. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 5 is 35. If you're a football fan, you already know where this is going. And 7 times 6 is 42. What is the number of points the Lions give up every game, Alex? Okay, multiples of 6. 6 times 1. 6 times 2. Still nothing in this both count. 6 times 3. 6 times 4. Because I kind of keep my eye on the sevens. I have not come up with a multiple of 6 that is equal. Then I go 30. Still nothing. About 36. Close, not quite. Ooh, I have 42. So now suddenly, this is my least common multiple. It's the smallest number in both lists. These are smaller numbers, but they're not in both. And it has to be a multiple. So my least common multiple of 6 and 7 is going to be 42. So what do I do next? I need to turn these both into 42. I'm going to do it right on this slide. So I need to multiply. I'm going to draw that lovely one that the book does that I used to never be a fan of. But it's never too long. Never too soon to change. All right, so I need this to end up being over 42. Starting on this side. 6 goes into 42 how many times? If you said 7, you're correct. In order for this to be the equivalent of 1, it needs to be 7 over 7. So whatever the numerator is, the denominator has to be, or vice versa. So now I go 5 times 7 is 35. So 5/6 is equivalent to 35 over 42. This side, I need to get it to 42. And you might already be Mr. I. 6 times 7 is 42. So 7 times 6 is 42. And that is a good use of your math families. Fact families here. So they both have to be 6. So since 7 times 6 is 42, 6 times 6 is 36. What's larger, 36 or 35? Because they're both over 42. 36 is larger. Yay for 36. So 36 over 42 is greater than 35 over 42, which tells us that 6/7 is greater than 5/6, albeit not by a whole lot. This is kind of what we're going to be doing in our thought process. Do you always have to draw this as a poorly drawn 1? No, you'll get past that point, but in the text, it models that so that you understand that although I changed the numbers, I didn't change what it was worth. Just like 6/8 and 3/4 was the same amount of yellow on the previous example. So I'm gonna go ahead and clear the drawings. And you can see that they've kind of done the work here. And I'm gonna press break. They split it up here. This is all of the things that we just did. In fact, let's go into the math in the book part now. This will be on page 583. And remember, the expectation is that you will fill this in as we go. If you, for whatever reason, don't have your packet available, you should write it on paper so that you have an artifact that you can look back on as you're completing the assignment or studying for a test or reviewing this in the middle of the summer, getting ready for middle school, whatever. There is a highlighted group of words in the top of 583 that says least common denominator. And the least common denominator is the least common multiple of the denominators of the fractions. So in the previous example with the 6 and 7, the least common multiple of those is 42. So the least common denominator is 42. We often will say we just need a common denominator, and we use the least common multiples to get there. So you will fill this in as we go. And it says Trevor made 2 out of 3 goals and Tyler made 5 out of 6. Who made a greater fraction of goals? So I'm going to compare 2/3 and 5/6. So 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. Now, you could just stop when you got to 6 because you can see that this number is the same, but I wanted to model this. 6 times 1, 6 times 2, 6 times 3. And you can see that the 6 and the 6 are in both. It's the smallest number in both. In fact, the next smallest one would be 12. But we wanted the smallest one. So the least common multiple of 3 and 6 is 6. So now I need to find equivalent fractions with a denominator of 6. Let's go ahead and write that in. I'll give you a few seconds before we move to the next step here, which is step this way. Or niche, sorry. Okay, so we need to turn these both into 6s. And 3 goes into 6 how many times? Twice. So if I multiply the bottom by 2 to get 6, I need to multiply the top by 2. Numerators and denominators are extremely jealous. Whatever you multiply the top by, you have to multiply the bottom by, or it tattles and gets you grounded. And the same thing the other way. Whatever I multiply the denominator by, I have to multiply the numerator by, or it tattles and you get grounded. They'll get grounded. Multiply top and bottom by the same, numerators and denominators. 2 times 2 is 4. So 2/3 is equivalent to 4/6. They're the same number. If you don't believe me, do 2 divided by 3 on a calculator, do 4 divided by 6 on a calculator. Tell me which one's larger. Spoiler alert, they're the same. All right, this is already over 6. So I really only have to multiply top and bottom by 1, and they're just showing you the step. Would I actually take the time to multiply top and bottom by 1? No, I wouldn't in the real world. I'd say already, I got a 6 and I've got a 6. We're ready to roll. So go ahead and fill this in before we move on to the next part. Give you about 20 seconds. Just a hint, when I say I'm about to clear the screen, if you're not finished writing that in, you should immediately pause the video, finish what you're writing in, and then unpause the video to move on. Because that's usually about the equivalent of a 2 or 3 second warning. All right, I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen. You can see what we just did. So now we're to step 3. So let's do it this way. 4/6 is less than 5/6. So 2/3 is less than 5/6. Because 2/3 and 4/6 are the same. I trust you checked with your calculator, and now you know that. So it's less. And then going back to the problem, Tyler made a greater fraction of the goals. We do need to have his name. You can see that we have fraction blocks here, 1/3 and 1/3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You could add these by going 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. And because they're all over 6, we know that it's 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, and 5/6. There's a helpful hint. Multiplying the numerator and denominator by the same number is the same as multiplying the fraction by 1. The result is an equivalent fraction. And hopefully you already got that as we were talking about this. If not, hopefully you have it now. All right, go ahead and write that in, and then you're going to turn to the top of page 584 for example niche. Then we'll do a couple guided practice, an independent practice, and then you're on your own with the homework today. Well, not truly, because you can always contact me. All right, example niche. compare 3/5 and 1/2. If you're really good with your fractions or your multiplication, you probably already know that this is going to be a 10 because it's going to go 5 times 1, 5 times 2. All multiples of 5 end in 5 or a 0. And you can see that in 5 times 3, 5 times 4. See 5, 0, 5, 0. And it's going to keep on keeping on. 2 times 1, 2 times 2, 2 times 3, 2 times 4, 2 times 5. So I have that over 10. So the least common multiple of 2 and 5 is 10. So now I need both of these to have a denominator of 10. So normally what I would do is I would go ahead and write the 10 in, and I would figure out how many times did 5 go into 10? Well, twice. So then I need to multiply the top number, the numerator, by 2 as well. 3 times 2 is 6. Over here, how many times did 2 go into 10? 5 times. So I multiplied 2 times 5 to get 10. I need to multiply the top number, the numerator, which is 1, by 5, and I get 5/10. So at this point, you probably already have an idea where you could just go like that, but there's more on your paper. Go ahead and write that in. I'll give you a few seconds. All right, go ahead and clear the screen. See the steps there, same as what we did. Now we're to the comparing. And we had 6/10 is greater than 5/10. 6 is greater than 5, and they're both over 10. So we're talking apples and apples and not apples and oranges. So therefore, 3/5 is greater than 1/2. There is a check. You can say of 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, and it's further along the line towards 1 than 1/2. All right, I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen. And this is the next one is going to be one I want you to try. It has all of these tools here. And we will go over it momentarily. What I ask you to do is just to save video time is to pause the video to do the problem, then unpause it when you're ready for me to go over it or see the answer. That way we don't have to put it out, wait for 5 minutes where somebody needs 1 minute and somebody needed 7. So go ahead and you're going to compare 1/5 and 1/3 using the least common denominator. So you may pause the video and return when you're ready. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. I'm going to grab my annotation tool. So I need to find the least common multiple of 5 and 3. And you saw before 5 times 1, 5 times 2, 5 times 3, 5 times 4, 5 times 5, and 5 times 6. You probably like Mr. I, 3 times 5 is 15, dude. And you'd be right. I could stop at 15. 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3, 3 times 4, 3 times 5. So I see that I have a 15 and I have a 15. So that means my common denominator is going to be 15 because that's my least common multiple. Make sure you have those all written in. Now my next step is I like to put the 15s first because I won't always have this number 1 drawn in there. And I say to myself, how many times does 3 go into 15? Well, 5 times. So that means I have to also multiply my numerator, which is a 1 times 5. And 1 times 5 is 5. Over here, 5 went into 15 3 times, so I multiply the numerator by 3. 1 times 3 is 3. So therefore, 1/5 is smaller than 1/3. And that makes sense. If you grab a calculator, 1/5 is going to be 0.2. 1/3 is going to be 0.333 repeating. Make sure you have this written in. I'll give you a few seconds. All right, I'm going to go ahead and clear the screen. I'm going to give you we'll see the guide. How are the least common multiple and the least common denominator alike? Well, the least common denominator is really the least common multiple of the given denominators, the numbers that make up the denominators. How are they different? Well, they don't always have to be denominators. I would like you to try numbers 2, 3, and 4. You'll do this by, again, pausing the video, solving, and then unpausing the video to see how you did. You may pause the video now. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. This becomes 6/8 because 4 and 8 are common multiples. So 3/4 is less than 7/8. Over here, we're going to go to 30. So this is 20/30. This is 21/30. So 20 is less than 21. 2/3 is less than 7/10. Over here, this is going to become 8/12 because 3 goes into 12 4 times. So I multiply that by 4, got the 8. 8 is greater than 7, so 2/3 is greater than 7/12. All right, I'm going to jump down for a couple more problems all the way to the number 11. Find the unknown in the equation that shows. And let's do one of these together, and I'll have you do 2. All right, so I see that 4 times 5 is 20. So if I multiply, and this was our original fraction here, 3/4. If I multiplied the denominator or the bottom by 5, what do I have to multiply the top by? The numerator. You're right, it has to be the same. That has to be a 5. Now, 3 times 5 is 15. So 3/4 is equivalent to 15/20. I want you guys to go ahead and do numbers 12 and 13. You can pause the video and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. All right. So how many times did 8 go into 24? 3 times. And if I multiplied 8 times 3 to get to 24, I'd have to go 7 times 3 to get to 21. Over here, 5, 6. 6 goes into 48 8 times, so I have to multiply the top by 8. 5 times 8 is 40. At this point, you're going to move into the homework, whether you have the Google form or the paper form. If you're doing the Google form, you'll see this posted as the top. And make sure you put in the correct symbol here and write in the answers going forward. If you are using the paper copy, make sure your name is on it and you submit it within the Google or within the classroom. You have the option as well to complete the paper, put your name on both sides, take a picture, scan it, and email it to me as well, or text it to me. That will get me the assignment the same way. If you have any questions, reach out to me via email, and I'd be more than happy to help you out. Hope you have a Minogijigad, Minwa, Baba P.